Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is George Schlakek, and this was meant to be a very different video. Barbara and I recently traveled through parts of British Columbia. Overall, it was a great trip, but we also came face to face with the sad reality about our environment. We have a lot of forested areas in Canada, and BC is no exceptions. You see miles and miles of forests, and it's nice. But if you take a closer look, you will notice that there aren't many large trees in our forests. Most have been harvested by logging companies several times over. Trees have been replanted so the forest can regrow. Then, in about 50 to 70 years, the logging company can come back and harvest the new trees once again, ensuring a constant and supposedly sustainable supply of timber. The Canadian government claims that deforestation in Canada is at levels that are among the lowest in the world because once a forest is cut down, it must be replanted. Look at this forest. Does it look healthy to you? What about all these dead trees? Do you notice how few plants are actually thriving besides the replanted trees? What you see here is hardly a healthy forest. It's more like a tree plantation disguised as a forest, managed by a company that exists to make profits at all cost. Canada is not a world leader in sustainable forest management, as the government likes to point out in this natural resources publication linked below. The truth is that replanted forests aren't considered deforested, so according to the government, deforestation in Canada is only 0.02%. Unfortunately, this equation is flawed as it doesn't differentiate between a forest that had hundreds of years to develop and this type of forest that had only a few years or even one that was just replanted. A recent report from NRDC and Canadian partners revealed that Canada is severely downplaying the logging industry's annual carbon footprint through a number of accounting flaws and loopholes and artifices. Every year, BC sprays about 10,000 hectares of forests with glyphosate as part of its reforestation program. The practice, which is also common in other parts of the country, gives replanted conifers a better chance to grow by killing competing plants like aspen and birch. Glyphosate is used to get rid of any unwanted plant. The problem with that is that a forest isn't just trees. Cutting down the trees, however, destroys the forest, and regrowing them is slow and difficult at first. Aerial spraying of herbicides violates the treaty rights that are recognized and affirmed in Section 35 of the Constitution Act of 1982. The forest industry sprays herbicide on saplings to reduce competition posed by trees and smaller plants to the conifers that are used for pulp and paper. Herbicides also contaminate plants, which are then consumed by animals and humans. There are over 100,000 court cases in the US involving people who got cancer after working with glyphosate. A forest like the one you see in my aerial footage here has fewer species thriving in it. It is also more vulnerable to drought conditions and less resilient against landslides, all of which BC has been affected by in recent years. Ever wonder why we have worsening wildfire seasons each year? Could it be because our forests are managed by people that are focused on profits rather than on a healthy environment? Do you think I'm blowing things out of proportion? Perhaps our forests aren't really that bad? Well, let me show you something. I'll go in there a little bit. What I wanted to show you here is this big old tree. This is a huge old tree. Unfortunately, it's already dead. Going up it slowly. Ooh, a little bit not so slowly. And the one behind it is really, really tall. Yeah, we're between Prince George and McBride. It's a stretch of road where there are several provincial parks, but nothing much going on. This is a provincial park. I'm not sure what it's called. It's got a really long name, but there are plants here that we don't have in Alberta. One of them is Devil's Club.
I could do the Yogi Bear thing. Like
So we stopped at another spot. It's the same provincial park that I can't pronounce the name of. And it's an ancient forest. There are some trees in here, like I showed you, they're already dead. And then there's some others that are still alive and that are like huge. I can hear some water going down the water thingy, the creek or whatever that is. And ahead of me is Barbara. She's walking up a set of steps. See all this ancient wood. Who knows how long ago all this originated. One day this was all little trees, tiny little cedar trees. I think that's what you're hearing, is a little creek. And there are tons of these old trees in here. There's another one up there. I hope the trail kind of leads us there, so we're gonna see. Yeah, this trail, it's a little bit slippery and it's a little damp here, but because it's a hot day outside in the sun, it's very, very comfortable here. It's like ancient wonderland. See, we already did like half of one of them trails there. Want to do the big tree loop?
Cedars sometimes grow in groups to 3 to 5 to form a circle, like groups of friends throughout the forest. These clusters of cedars can be found as often as you walk along the trail. Similar to other mysterious circles in the world, such as crop circles or fairy circles, why and how these cedar circles are formed is still a mystery, but they are another unique feature of the ancient forest. In its search for light, the tree can grow laterally and touch the ground, allowing the cedar to root itself back into the ground.
Do you really think a forest like this one needs to be managed by a logging company? Forest management is a scam to make us all believe that our forests are intact when, in reality, we have lost them decades and in some cases even centuries ago. What we have left today are tree plantations that are strikingly similar to the monocultures of palm tree plantations in South America. Still, even today, companies are logging old-growth forests. This should be outlawed, and we need to demand it. walking through this ancient forest, admiring these huge trees. Yeah, what I can't get out of my mind is like how many forests we have in Canada and how few of them are preserved and look like this. Now imagine 500 years ago, before the Europeans invaded Canada and that, like, we probably had a lot of this. And I wonder, Barbara says there are a lot of good cancer medications that grow here. My question is, would you even need cancer medications if there was more of this natural environment and we had a better relationship with the environment than we do today? Because there's not much of this left. I mean, look around you. The trees are huge here. It's very few times in my life that I've seen trees this big. Actually, I could probably count them on half of one hand or so. So, this is what a real forest looked like. Now swing the camera around so you can see what's ahead. It's amazing. There's a humongous tree in front of us there, and one of them fell down already. And here you can see that the cedars, huge old cedars, usually grow in groups, and that is something I didn't know either, but we read it back there on the sign. And they can actually relocate when their space becomes restricted.
Playing with my camera.
Yeah, it puts the tree size into perspective. So it seems like we reached the end of this trail. There are more big trees over like the other side.
We have lived here for a very long time. We are sturdy and strong, but our friends, the lions that live on our park, may have looked for a home for hundreds, even 1,000 years before finding a home with us. Please do enjoy admiring our tiny guests, but please do not touch them, or they will die. Thank you. The cedars.
So when Barb and I went on this trail, we saw that it was called Big Tree Trail, but we didn't really know why it was called that. Now we know, because this tree right here is going on 2,000 years of age. Like, here's our big selfie with the ancient tree. This tree is like going on 2,000 years of age. We had no idea before we stepped in here that this was what the trail was named after, but now we know. And it's quite, like, you have to be here to actually appreciate how big this is. And well,
Huge.
yeah, it changes your whole perspective on BC's forests, because normally when we drive by the forest and we see them from the car, we don't see any big trees like that. None. They've all been chopped down except in certain areas. guys, this is what a real forest looks like. Can you believe they're still cutting down old growth forests like this one today? This one happens to be in a park, so it's preserved. It'll be here for a long time, hopefully, probably, but at one time, Canada had lots of this kind of forest. Today, it's gone. It's basically extinct. It's basically all gone, and there are some plants here that you don't find almost anywhere else. So it's a tragedy, really. It's a tragedy, and we're still relying on the lumber industry for a lot of our economy, which I can understand that, yeah, we all live in houses made of lumber, which is fine, but I think when it comes to exporting lumber so that other nations can use our wood to build their houses, that's where it gets shady, you know. There's just too much of it being done, and we don't have any of this left. The trees that are in most forests today, they are maybe 60, 70, maybe 100 years old, but not like this, nothing like this. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this little walk and give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, well, now is the time. Just click it, okay? Thanks.